Search Open Call 3 webinar, and we would like to ask you to wait until the end of the session for the Q&A. You can ask questions in the chat in the meantime, and please also mute yourself. So today we'll talk about the scope of the third open call, as well as going briefly through the topics, which is more like a menu of various topics that you can apply for. As well as some offers that we also provide to you if you get accepted into the project. So what is interesting about the project, these 10 added value services, and then a little bit about the rules, how to apply and what to expect there, and then we round it off with a Q&A. We hope we get that done all within the hour, and we maybe only talk for hopefully 30 minutes, so we have lots of time for you to ask questions about the open call. So first of all, I think it's best to understand that NGI is a large initiative funded by the European Commission, and there have already been a number of projects funded under various other projects. So for example, NGI Search is a project that will fund around about 40 to 50 projects, and there have already been, I think, 11 or 12 of those projects running, like NGI Pointer is linked here, but there's also been a project previously on search and discovery, as well as several other topics that have been covered. So you're joining this larger family, and you can find on ngi.eu the more high-level information, and also about the other projects, what has been funded, and so on. And if you go down to NGI Search, you can already see what has been funded in the first open call, and soon you will also be able to see what has been funded in the second open call, the types of projects that we support. So we hope to welcome you also into this larger family of projects and work with you, of course. So NGI Search is a project that's started around about a year ago and will run until August 2025. Around about 80% of the project budget is reserved for FSTP projects, so projects that we would like to subgrant between 50 to 150,000 per project. And we do this over 5 open calls, and this is the third open call out of the 5, so there are 2 more coming after this as well. And we're running them around about every 3 to 4 months. If you get accepted into the program, you will be offered a 12-month custom program, and also 10 added value services that you can use at your freedom, on top of the financing that we're providing for the project as well. We also will try to integrate you into the wider NGI community, so if you find synergies between projects or interesting collaborations, then we will try and introduce you, but also we'll try and introduce you to a wider community of other stakeholders and policymakers as well. And in particular, we have a sister research and innovation action called openwebsearch.eu, which is working with an open web index, which we would like you to interact with as well at some point or another. And we have also other events, like in November, we have an NGI forum coming up, which is also not mandatory, but we highly recommend that you could join us. So I have a few comments that the voice quality isn't great. I hope it's improving. If it's persisting, please just send another message and I'll have a look what I can do. So I think we will also move on to some other speaker now, so maybe that will solve also the problem. We have a number of open call 3 topics, and I would like to invite Aurora to talk us through the topics, and I can move the slides along as you need it, Aurora.
Okay, yeah, hello. Can you hear me well?
Yeah.
Can you?
Very well.
Yes. So, great. So I will introduce the topics of this third open call, which are addressing gaps in large language models, AI detection on cultural products, search and discovery technologies for the arts, for privacy preserving in general, and transfer learning for search and discovery as well. Then we have the next generation of intelligent voice-based assistants, and a general topic for enabling new ways of discovering and accessing information. Although it's not explicitly mentioned in the topic's explanation that I will give, all of them admit the transversal interest of developing more environmentally friendly technologies. So that's something to keep in mind. Next slide, please. Mirko? Yes. So large language models have transformed the way we search and discovery, the whole experience. They are trained on massive amounts of data that is textual, and they can generate human-like text in a wide variety of contexts. However, they still present gaps. For example, they are computationally demanding and resource-intensive. Another problem is hallucination. They lack of common sense, basic knowledge, bias, their ethical concerns, etc. So those problems are to be tackled. In order to make the models more efficient, knowledge distillation could be a solution. It's one of the things a project could try to handle, which consists of transferring a trained complex model, the knowledge that a complex model has extracted into a smaller, more efficient model. Then possible has a process for hallucination include the use of external knowledge databases to augment the training data, using knowledge graphs, incorporate reasoning capabilities into LLMs, such as probabilistic reasoning. So all these kind of products are welcome. Next, please. The next one is AI detection tools in cultural products. So AI-generated content, like text, images, videos, can have a very positive impact, are having a positive impact in society. They are efficient, they are consistent, and they are as well customized to an audience. So even though the quality of this content generated by AI has improved significantly, we are seeing it, it's still a product of algorithms and lacks of the creativity of humans. So in order to make more informed decisions on what kind of content we want to consume, we want to use, we need tools to detect if a piece is created by means of AI. So we're currently facing problems with regards to authorship, for example, in terms of privacy, property, and we can suffer as well from misinformation, from bias and privacy concerns. So we look for projects that are aimed to detect the use of AI when creating content. Next, please. So search and discovery internet technologies can provide the artists unprecedented opportunities for exposure, for collaboration, for learning, and for engagement. If we support collaboration between artists, scientists, engineers, we can find new perspectives for solving problems and making as well AI more accessible to people, more trustworthy. For example, STARTS, the project that is funded by the EU, the European Commission, is an example of that effort. So we look for technological developments that can increase artists' visibility, optimizing their online presence, find the audiences to target by leveraging data analytics, for example, by means of personalized recommendations, as well as trying to find ways to collaborate between cross domains, right? So, for example, video game programmers with musicians and designers, for example. So some examples of technologies that can be leveraged for this are blockchain for ownership and transparency, and its applications with NFTs, AI-based, as I was saying, personalized recommendations, machine learning, augmented reality for interacting with artwork, content management systems, any kind of interactive discovery tool is welcome for this topic. Next, please. So during the process of searching for information and discovering new content online, personal information and data from the user needs to be protected. and we want projects that help in that regard. So with some examples of these technologies that are hot on the topic are federated learning, differential privacy, secure multi-party computation, and homomorphic encryption. A very short intro on these techniques. So FL is a way to decentralize machine learning. So there are different clients, there are different nodes, different devices, which will train their models without sharing the data with the rest. And then they will share the parameters that are extracted from their personal training, send it to a server, mix it up, and take it back so that the model is updated, but they don't share the data. Differential privacy adds random perturbations to query responses so that we don't share directly the data. SMPC, secure multi-party computation, is a cryptographic technique, which again will have multiple parties to jointly compute a result without revealing inputs. And homomorphic encryption is a way to compute with encrypted data without the cryptonyms. So we look for mechanisms that safeguard privacy, prevent cyber attacks, and build trust in the way we search and discover information. Next, please. Then transfer learning, which involves utilizing the knowledge gained from one task to improve the performance of another related task. So instead of starting the learning process from scratch, it will use the pre-learned knowledge or representations extracted from a different but similar domain and use it in a new one. It can be effectively applied to search and discovery tasks to improve their performance. For example, we could use, as I was saying, pre-trained model that have been trained on a large data set for a specific task. Then we can use feature structures, representation learning that can transform, once we transform the data to a specific representation and to the semantic meaning, then again, share it with in other contexts. So as I was saying, the goodness of transfer learning is improve performance, reduce data requirements, and improve efficiency in general. Next, please. Mirko? Yes. So the next generation of intelligent voice-based assistants is a repeated topic from OpenCall 1, which was not tackled by any of the selected projects, so we want to give it another chance. Voice-based assistants are used for everyday tasks, and they can influence our lives by making suggestions for a healthier mental and lifestyle, a healthier way to conduct our activities. As we are becoming familiar with them, and therefore more complex queries will be made. So they will require the addition of intelligence to the assistant. We will not use it for domestic tasks anymore, but for more complex, when we look for a new project or when we're looking for new ambitions. So what we are looking for is projects that account for the time sensitivity and location of the queries, that can be mixed model, that can use mixed model interactions with different inputs from voice, from images, from sounds, and projects that address in general privacy concerns from voice-based assistants. Everything is welcome in that regard. Next, please. And finally, we have this topic in order to remind you that even if the call has some main interest menu, if there is any interesting idea related to search and discovery, we can still consider it. So any kind of algorithm, methodology, or approach to discover and access information is very welcome. Those are the topics. Hopefully they align with your interests, and thank you for the attention.
Thank you, Aurora. I hope the audio is better now. I know I have some quality issues, but I killed the video now, so it should be okay. So if you're applying a new to one of the open calls that we have, you are eligible to up to 150,000 in funding. You need to apply for a specific amount, so you need to set that when you make the application, of course. But then when you start your project, you can also use some of the services that we're offering if they're fitting your requirements. And we will present those services just in a little while now. So we have in total 10 added value services. And I think rather than everybody going through them, I will briefly mention them. You can also find them on our website very soon. But in principle, we provide you with technology mentoring and advice. So you get that from all of us. But University of Murcia is taking the lead on this with many years of experience working in various areas that we're covering in the project. We also have a beta testing service that OW2 is offering through a project called Reach Out, a beta testing platform. It's usually several months that this campaign runs, so you should be fairly early on knowing if you are using something like this or not. We also have a fairly wide network in terms of links to standardization and foundations. So we work together with, for instance, the Free Software Foundation in Europe, Open Forum Europe, the Open Search Foundation in Europe, OW2, our own organization, Eclipse Foundation, and so on. And we would like to, if you're interested, put you in touch with those organizations and also help you into the community. We offer a market readiness service. So this is checking your market readiness in terms of the product or service that you're trying to develop. And this is also a standardized offering that OW2 is working with. It's similar to the technology readiness level, but it's looking at the market side of things. We also offer some pitch training. So if you would like to, beyond the project or during the project duration, also would like to talk to other interest groups or have other people become interested in your project, we also offer you in trying to understand how to best present the project. We also do business modeling and business coaching in general for your projects to see in which direction you can take the project and also keeping it sustainable, financially sustainable. And we have a number of innovation services that cover advice to open source licensing. So if you're starting a new project and you're not familiar with open source licenses, we would also like to help you with this. Link is offering a very specialized product for market landscaping and research. So this is helping you understand a little bit more your surroundings. University of Murcia also offers open science advice if you're not familiar with it. And finally, we also help you with content creation support for marketing material. And on top of this, there's other services that you can also engage with from a project called NGI Zero Review, which also allows you to engage with similar types of services from other organizations like NLNet and other experts. So I think at that point then I would like to hand over to Nina to talk a little bit about the rules for how to apply for the funding itself.
Thank you. Can you hear me well?
Yep, very well.
Okay. So next slide, please. I will be talking about the application process and some basic rules about the third open call. So before everything, please read carefully the guide for applicants and the frequently asked questions listed on the open call site. You can reach the files over there. Regarding the open call benefits, as already explained, these are joining the NGI support program with a duration of up to 12 months, receiving funding of up to 50K if the applicant is a natural person, and up to 150K if the applicant is applying as an organization. And there's an option to receive the mentoring services explained by Mirko a minute ago. So here we're calling basically everyone. So you can apply individually or an organization looking to change the way users search and discovery on the internet within the NGI and European values of transparency and privacy in mind. So we're calling neutral persons and organizations. We also accept consortia of both of those combined. The only limit there is 3 members per team. After you submitted your application and after the open call is finished, we have then 4 stages of evaluation process, which are eligibility check, minimum quality criteria, external evaluation, and consensus meeting. All these in detail can be very well read in Guide for Applicants on the open call site. And finally, there's a sub-grant agreement signing when and if you get selected. Next slide, please. Regarding the application itself, the thing is going on the platform, on the Fundingbox platform. It's very simple. You should first sign up to create a user, your Fundingbox ID, and you can start your application right away. Next, please. The application process is, of course, fully online. You can save your applications in draft and come back later. You can even submit it and still come back later if it's before the deadline. So there is no need to process any paperwork at this stage. Your application, you can export the application in PDF, but please do this before the submission. So when you hit the submit button and when the deadline is over, you won't be able to do this. We will also prepare the instructions file. It's also available on the open call site. Well, you have all the detailed steps of the application process very well explained. You should fill all the fields here on the left. And the very important thing, please make sure you submit only one proposal. Next, please. So some tips, there's an option to add a contributor to the application submission page. So you can add your team member to help you out with filling out the application. Mind the deadline, please don't do it 5 minutes before the deadline because things can happen. You should fill all the fields before submitting it. And only the first proposal that has been submitted in order of time will be evaluated. So make sure you delete all the ones that you created after the first one. So make sure you just delete the first proposal submitted. You submit only the first proposal. And you can always come back to your application until the deadline and even after submission, like I said, to make changes and edit it, whatever you need. And if you need our help, we have multiple channels where you can reach out to us. We have a dedicated email, which is ngisearch@fundingbox.com. And we have an official open call help desk that is open within the NGI community on the Fundingbox spaces. And you can raise all your questions anywhere you like, and we will really come back to you really fast. We're pretty time sensitive regarding your questions. And that will be it, I think. Hope to... Back to you, Mirko, right?
Thanks, Nina. There's a bunch of questions in the... Can you hear me? Can you hear me well?
Clear?
Can you hear me well?
Yes. Well, I don't not super well, but I can hear you okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can understand.
Okay, good. I hope it's getting better. So, thank you, Nina. I have just a couple of things left here. So, important notes, because there's sometimes a bit of confusion here, and sometimes people tick the wrong thing. So, first of all, if you have a conflict of interest with any of the partners in the project, we need to address that inside the project. So, if it's a strong conflict of interest, we cannot fund you, of course. If you're, for example, a member of OW2, then that's we take that case by case, but these are conflicts of interest that we can handle because OW2 is a member-based organization. Of course, there are many open source projects involved there as well. But we're taking this one seriously. The second point that is important to note is the minimum quality criteria. So this is the first hurdle that you need to pass before you go to an independent review inside the project, before you then get ranked, and then based on a selection committee, these projects will be selected. So the formal process you can see in the guide for applicants, but the minimum quality criteria is important. You have to be able to say that you pass A1. And you have to pass at least one of B's, B1 or B2. You can choose that. So this means that you have to be an open source project. We do not accept if you close any of your software. It has to be open source. We accept that you maybe build something alongside a closed source. So, but then what you're building inside the project has to be open source, and it has to be applicable in a wider context. It can't just be usable with your own proprietary software. So that's quite important. There's quite a few people that either don't tick that they pass A1, which then makes them not eligible, or that's often an accident, or that they have misunderstood that we're very strict on the open source criteria. And on B1, if you are, so A1 counts for new and existing projects. So if you have been a project for the last 10 years, we are happy to contribute to that project. If you're an entirely new idea, you need to convince us that you can do it and that it's a good idea, of course. But you still can apply here and say, I will make it open source, but there needs to be a clear strategy for that. On B1 and B2, these are more loose. So B1 looks more at that you have that you're making real workable code, that you can produce something for the community, and it's in a deployable state. So it is at the very end of the project. There is something that is very tangible. The second point is more community-based, that you're contributing to a larger community. So you're engaging with a specific community, like W3C as an example, but that you can either demonstrate a solid track record, or you have the strong intention and the credibility that you're engaging with that community. So please keep that in mind for the minimum quality criteria. The third point here is scope. So we will also look alongside the minimum quality criteria on the scope. And there's also sometimes some confusion. So open source, yes, but you can also develop something that is just contributing to the digital commons, like a product or service that's based on open source software. That is maybe more specific to what you're doing. That's also perfectly fine. We sometimes see proposals that have nothing to do with the internet or the web. Maybe it's using it, but it's not contributing to its core protocol, services, or activities. So it's more like a waste sorting system. We are not interested in those. Or monitoring system for plants or something like this. Those are not interesting. And then please make sure that you link to the topics that we address. We always have a topic that's very broad, so you can probably find always something to argue that it makes sense. But please, link it somehow to the topics that we are providing. This gives you a higher chance to rank higher. And finally, there's also some confusion often about the supporting document that we offer you to submit. This is optional. We do not need to have a 10-page prose written proposal here. It's a supporting document. So because everything is web form based, you can't easily do tables or nearly impossible graphics in those. So if you need to provide like an architecture or a concept diagram or something else, user interface or whatever it is, then you can use this document and reference it inside the web forms with, for instance, C graphic 1 in supporting document or C table 1 in supporting document. So this is quite important to remember. We do not need a 10-page, and we do not want to have a 10-page document. We will not look at it unless it's referenced inside the web forms. And this is to keep everything at the same level. Some people can afford nice graphics designers or a writer, a writing team for the proposals. We don't want that. We want down to the bare bones, good ideas, and working with interesting people that have good intentions for the wider community, contributing to the digital commons and working on open source projects. So these are very, very important notes. This is probably one of the most important slides to consider when you're writing a proposal. And with that, I would like to say thank you. Call closes on the 2nd of October at 5 o'clock. Is it CET or CST? I actually don't remember now.
It's S.
It's a CST, so this is supposed to be an S here. Sorry about that. That's a mistake from my side. And now we're going to do Q&A, and I will stop recording.